YouLead Summit, the One Young Africa Summit, is back, larger and more impactful than ever. As was in 2021, YouLead Summit 2022 covers an Africa-wide audience, bringing together hundreds and potentially thousands of youth leaders, continental, regional and national policymakers, private sector and NGO stakeholders to craft responses to the continent's rapidly growing youth population, their challenges and opportunities.
The treaty establishing the East African community is people-driven, and the youth form part of this. In fact, they constitute the largest number of the population in East Africa, and that is to say, the community belongs to the youth. And therefore, as the East African community with other stakeholders, we felt it's important we have a very special event, actually a summit for the youth.
Africa's young people are searching for green grass elsewhere, but the green grass is here in the continent. And I think the YouLead Africa is that platform that makes young people in Africa act as one, come together, and create solutions for the challenges that they face, but also receive support from those who love what they do and want them to succeed.
It's about uplifting the community by empowering every individual that can contribute to our society's progress, well-being, and stability.
The YouLead summits you host in collaboration with the East African community and other partners are extremely important in providing the youth a forum whereby they can air their feelings, and it's the only forum as well in our parties as governments to understand what exactly the youth are thinking about, what we are doing in government, maybe what we lack, and what they think could be done by respective governments. I think it's a very, very important forum for us and for them as well. And let's be assured that the East African governments are supportive of what you're doing.
It is actually a special event that will be targeting to talk to our youth and tell the youth that the community belongs to them, to take up responsibility and take charge of this community. And this is a time to do so.
This is a very successful culmination of dedicated efforts of the YouLead Consortium of Youth Serving Organizations and the YouLead Secretariat.
YouLead Summit is convened annually by the East African Community and MS Training Center for Development Cooperation through their youth engagement initiatives, the EAC Youth Ambassadors Platform, and YouLead Africa. Since 2021, the East African Business Council has joined the partnership to strengthen the youth in business focus of the summit.
So it is important to engage and involve youth from initial discussion about our drive to promote continental free trade area.
The community belongs to the youth, and therefore, as the East African community with other stakeholders, we felt it's important we have a very special event, actually a summit for the youth.
This year, in the spirit of Going Africa, Southern Africa Youth Forum, SIOF, has joined the partnership as a convening partner. From 12th to 16th December, the YouLead Summit will be held under the theme Digital Access and Future of Work. The selection of this year's theme particularly seeks to take stock of the transformational role of digital access to the future of work in Africa's development agenda and reposition Africa's digitalization agenda as a preeminent public good.
We are witnessing a digital revolution, and the digital tools have supported many of the political demands. Majority of the population and the continent is actually offline. We are disconnected, and disconnection is not just in terms of digital infrastructures. We talk also about logistical infrastructures. We talk about electricity. We talk about all the infrastructures that give us the opportunity to access to the internet.
Our thematic forums this year are Day 1, the Under 40 Political Leaders Forum, examining the policy and institutional environment and the state of youth participation in political governance.
You are never too young to lead. You are never too young to do that which you believe in. You young people are going to change Africa.
As young people, we need to know and believe in the power of showing up. You need to show up, because I had the choice of backing up and leaving that room and I will not have been the youngest actually head of department in a serious organization.
Policymakers and Development Partners Roundtable, examining the role of policymakers and development partners in creating an enabling environment for young people's participation. This year's roundtable will focus on the relevance of the Africa-Europe Partnership to the African youth. Day 2, the official opening ceremony of YouLead Summit by His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete, former President of Tanzania and patron of YouLead, Her Excellency Fatoumata Tambajang, former Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Honorable Dr. Peter Mathuki, Secretary General of the East African Community, Ms. Makena Mobobia, Executive Director, MS Training Center for Development Cooperation, Ms. Angelina Ngalula, Board Chairperson, East African Business Council, and participating EAC heads of state and ministers, representatives of African Union Commission. The Under 40 Business Leaders Forum, exploring making the AFCFTA promises to African youth a reality, opening markets and opportunities for women, youth, and SMEs. The East Africa Youth Enterprise Awards Gala Dinner, supporting youth-led businesses and ideas that are innovative and action-oriented towards providing decent livelihoods for youth. Day 3, the Gender Equality Forum, discussing African youth priorities towards the Commission on Status of Women, 67, Innovation and Technological Change and Access to Services in the Digital Age for Achieving Gender Equality and the Empowerment of All Women and Girls.
Achieving gender equality at last is our means of giving back to those countless women who have dedicated their lives to ensuring we could all sit here, positioned to bear an impact on the future of our communities.
Arusha Peace Forum, focusing on the peace and conflict climate change nexus and understanding how Africa's youth, peace and security agenda can be achieved in practice. The forum will be climaxed with an Arusha Climate Change Marathon and Climate Justice Town Hall. Day 4, Post-Summit Agenda of Action, a proactive mechanism to ensure that the life of the summit discussions go beyond the summit reports, actively transforming regional business and politics by providing the right environment at both policy and program level in partnership with YouLead Consortium members, stakeholders, and other interested parties. Tubonge East Africa Parliamentary Connect, a joint flagship initiative with the Mzalendo and Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association, KYPA, to foster young leaders' legislative enlightenment and elected young political leaders' performance and cooperation enhancement among the young political representatives in the EAC region. Day 5, not just a summit, the Arusha experience. On the final day, participants have the opportunity to explore the many features and recreational opportunities that Arusha and its surroundings offer.
And I really appreciate YouLead Summit for giving us a platform on how we can build a collective power to create a sustainable movement that will help us create change in our society.
YouLead Summit is really awesome.
YouLead Summit Youth Power.
YouLead Summit is empowering.
We encourage all partners to join us, especially to support the national processes, but also to support the participation of representatives from the countries into the regional summit.
This event will be co-hosted by the patron of the youth in East Africa, His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete, the former president of the United Republic of Tanzania, and of course myself as the Secretary General of the East African Community. We have also invited other heads of states to take part in this.
I call upon policymakers, development partners, the private sector, media, civil society, and other stakeholders to be part of and support the East African community in convening this year's YouLead Summit.
We welcome you to Arusha and looking forward to seeing you. Tukutane Arusha.
Contact us at director@youlead.africa. To apply as a delegate, visit www.youlead.africa.
And there you have it. You lead, I lead, we lead together. Good afternoon, Africa. Good afternoon, East Africa. My name is Sebastian, Segawa Ivan Sebastian, and I welcome you all to this afternoon sessions where we are going to have a reflection on the recently concluded general elections in Kenya. And we are also going to use this opportunity to have a validation of the EAC Youth Agenda, a document that we did extensive consultations on for the most, if not the whole of 2021 across the region. And I trust that on this call, there are some people that were part of those consultations, and the process will be easy to just see whether what you shared during the consultations is indeed what was captured. But before that, I just want to encourage everyone, do as well and introduce yourselves and introduce yourselves in the Okay, I also encourage that if you are not the one speaking, kindly do mute your mic so that we do not have interference. But I encourage that we have introductions in the comment section. And as we proceed, I just want to know whether my colleague Kaze is available to just give us quick opening remarks and just to set us off so that we can start this very exciting session. And I will tell you why it is specifically exciting for me. Kaze, are you available to say hello to us?
Good morning, Seba. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. Thank you very much, Seba. Thank you, everyone who is here. I am very, very happy and honored to be doing this today. It's a very exciting moment for us as YouLead, but also as Kenya YouLead Consortium members, because we have worked on this for a very long time. We started this journey of Kenya Ya Amani on 20th of May this year, when we launched the Kenya Ya Amani campaign, supporting Kenya for the elections. So we are very happy to have done this campaign with all of you young people who are here, who have been supporting our work. We did our campaign was mostly online, and you really helped us through things we have done, such as Twitter Spaces and Flood series, other dialogues and discussions, the Kenya Ya Amani song, and a lot of other activities where you share the messages of peace. And we are also happy because Kenya is peaceful, and we can say it because we have seen the country, we have observed the elections, and we have seen one other thing we are very grateful is a number of young people have been elected. We would have loved more, but what we have, we are still really grateful, and we think Kenya is on the right direction, which we hope can keep inspiring other African countries, and starting with the countries in the East Africa region. So we are very happy to have all of you here and to share. So today is a big opportunity for us for one reason. As much as we have done the campaign, we really want to hear from you guys, all of you. Today we are not coming to make speeches, but today we want to listen and hear, reflect together with you guys. Tell us where the elections were inclusive. And when we talk about inclusivity, for us, what's most important is inclusivity of young people. And how did it go? What would you like us to keep advocating, especially in terms of advocating for young people participation in political spaces? What would you want us to keep advocating more? If we shouldn't be doing campaigns, when elections start, but we should start preparing for the next elections right from now. We have been complaining about the low turnout of young people going to vote, even for registration. So what can we start doing from right now so that in 2027 we can have a better result than what we have today? So we are going to really have a full reflection, and we hope everyone who is here will be able to bring their point of view, their contribution, and we will capture everything. And hopefully we will share the report during the YouLead Summit in December, where we will talk about what you guys have. But today, as Seba said also, we are going to start what we call a validation of West Africa Youth Agenda, which is something we have started working on from last year, and we have captured a lot of ideas from you young people. So when we will talk about, we also want to hear, what do you think about this agenda? Is there something we have missed? Is something we would like to comment on? So today we want this to be really a space where we sit and we listen from you. Seba will tell us how we will do this, but we just want to say that we are very, very much excited to have everyone and feel very welcome to this afternoon session. Thank you very much, Seba, and welcome to everyone who is here.
Thank you so much, Kaze, and for making the time. I know that you have been traveling, and clearly the fatigue can be heard in your voice, but also the fact that you spared time to still be part of us is testament to your commitment towards working for the cause of all of us, young people. Thank you so much for being part of us today. Before we proceed, I just want to recognize the different people and groupings that are on this call. And specifically, we did invite the ESC Youth Ambassadors. For those of you that shared the Kenya Amani campaign, you know that the campaign ended with a deployment of an ESC observer mission, youth observer mission. And as young people, we were represented by the ESC Youth Ambassadors. And therefore, while we unpack today's reflection, we shall also be hoping to hear from the ambassadors who are on ground as observers on what their view of the election was as independent observers for that election. The second group is definitely, this is not in any particular order. I am just mentioning them the way I see them shortlisted. We do have young people that ran for offices. We also have those that went through for the offices. I have seen a couple of young parliamentarians here. I, again, cannot shortlist everyone's name. That's why I still encourage that we all make introductions in the chat so that we get to know each other. Young people get to know their new representatives in Parliament or in Senate, and then also the representatives get to interact with their constituents. I encourage that we keep the introductions going on in the comment section. We also have members of civil society organizations, and these are key in this journey that we have been walking as a peace campaign that we ran. We, by all means, have the young people of Kenya and of East Africa that have been invited to be part of this conversation. We want to hear specifically from the young people of Kenya what their experience was and how they see their participation, how young people collectively we can shape our participation in electoral processes, not just in Kenya, but all over the region, even the continent. And then last but by no means any least are our consortium members that have been co-creators, co-conveners, and co-curators of this Kenya Amani campaign. We have walked the journey with you, and we are very excited to have you today. I also want to share very quickly that the agenda under which we are going to undertake. Unfortunately, we have already spilled off a few of those. We did have opening remarks that were handled by Kazeneza Higet. Kaze is a focal point of peace and security here at the YouLead Secretariat. And she was at center stage when in sharing reflections on, in shaping the Kenya Amani campaign. We shall also have, you heard that we did have a song that was made specifically for this campaign, the Kenya Amani song. That will be airing very soon. I saw one of the people that contributed to the voices and creativity of that song, the creative mind of MC Benny. Hopefully MC Benny will also share with us what was going within the team when they were composing the lyrics to this song. But before we listen to this song, we shall first have a presentation of the achievements and challenges of the campaign. And these achievements will be shared by Mr. Daniel Njuguna. Daniel is Kenyan, and he was the campaign manager for the Kenya Amani campaign. After that, we shall have a presentation of the ES Youth Agenda and a quick validation. At that point, I'll be explaining how we shall be undertaking the validation. After we are done with the validation, we shall then go into breakout rooms. And these breakout rooms, I will invite my colleague, Fiona Kemi, to come and just explain to us how the breakout rooms technically will work, for those of us that have not interacted with that tool of breaking out during Zoom. But even then, for these breakout rooms, I'll also share guidance on what we shall be deliberating on there. And we do have a few guiding questions for all of us when we go in our specific breakout rooms to deliberate on, after which one representative from each breakout session will come back and share with the whole plenary the responses to those guiding questions, which will also inform the outcomes of this reflection and inform the recommendations as well. And after that, we shall have comments from youth who ran for office in Kenya, then have another session of our open plenary, after which we shall have concluding remarks and end this reflection with a strong call to action. With that said, I just want to know whether anyone, and I'm a democratic person specifically now that we are discussing elections, but if anyone wants to amend that, that agenda, you are welcome to share your thoughts. But I do appreciate all of you that are sharing your introductions in the comment. I see you, Stanislaus Innocent. I see you, MC Benny, Tatiana Mumbi, Emmanuel Wafula, Charles Nguna, Andrea Sotieno, Stefan Motiria, Alex Oburu, Brigid Siante, Pasco Ambua, and many more. Keep the introductions coming in so that we can know who is here. And I love how the pace has been set. People are introducing themselves with their names and where they are coming from and what they do. We appreciate that. And that said, I now just want to kick us off with a program this afternoon by inviting the Kenya Amani campaign manager, Mr. Daniel Njuguna, to come and share with us the achievements and challenges of the campaign as the gentleman who was at the helm of its technical running. Daniel, you are welcome. I have also allowed you the right to share in case you have a presentation for us.
All right, thank you, Seba, for that introduction. Thank you so much. And this is again a great honor to speak and talk about the Kenya Amani campaign that was concluded a few months ago, which was very, very successful, a few challenges notwithstanding. Kenya Amani, every one of you might or have already interacted with the campaign, which ran from May through September. And this was largely done online. And we opted to do this campaign online because of the technicalities that comes with with a campaign such as this, because our main target was mainly the youth or the young people, because of course you understand the fact that even in the past history, we've had violence with youth being at the center or the very heart of the violence across Africa and the East Africa and everywhere in the world. And therefore, that is why we opted to use online campaigns so that we get to reach out to the young people. And I would want to share the achievements and of course the challenges that came along with the campaign. According to our internal statistics that came out after the campaign, and of course during the campaign, we really achieved the target of 1 million young people outreach. And so across all our social media platforms, that is Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, every social media platform that we used had an amount of an outreach in terms of the people we wanted to reach, and in this case, we wanted to reach out to the youth. And so that was a great achievement, because that was the initial target when we kickstarted the campaign. And the young people really gave us the feedback. You could reach out to our social media inboxes, and you could see young people trying to call on us to intervene in their areas, to intervene in their local authority, people in their local authority, so that we get to reach out to every person to preach the gospel of peace, because you understand our historical background in terms of elections have been chaotic. And so I remember in 2007, we almost lost this country. And so this online campaign was very necessary, because a lot of hate and misinformation were spread across the online space. You remember the people who were taken to The Hague, many of them were charged because of, I remember this Stephen Sang, who was charged at the ICC because of spreading fake information on online, radio. So that was our main target, to reach out to the people online so that we get to lock out completely the misinformation that comes along with online interaction. So that was a great achievement for us in the Kenya Amani campaign. Another thing that was very crucial for us is that during, before and after the elections, Kenya was successfully peaceful. From Nyanza to the coast, everywhere was peaceful. There was no any forms of violence. There was no any forms of young people coming against each other. Even at the very center of Nairobi, people are calm. You understand that Nairobi has been at the center of violence in terms of demonstrations, people fighting, people convening for Cold Wars. You understand, Kibra.
Is Daniel breaking for everyone, or is it just me?
By the political elites to cause
Daniel, we seem to be losing you. I think your network is shaky. Daniel, are you able to hear me? Okay. While we try to get back with Daniel to listen to the most of his presentation, I just want to say that it is exciting for me to hear that we hit 100 million young people in Kenya and across the region with this campaign. So congratulations to the team that was working on the peace campaign, and congratulations to you young people of East Africa and Africa for showing the solidarity that we want peace in Kenya, and we are proving that young people are associating specifically in electoral processes, and they want peace out of it. While we wait for Daniel, allow me now to share with you the creative minds of our people, our young people in the region who came up with a song, the Kenya Amani song. I see MC Ben is here. Hopefully, if we can spare a minute, we can also hear from him what the vision was and what informed the lyrics to this song. But for now, this is the Kenya Amani song. Enjoy.
Kopango Africa. Youth, we are no longer tools. So let's have peace in every step that we take.
Amani ni wewe na mi, wewe na mi. Amani ni wewe na mi, wewe na mi. Rise to keep wave, come on flags of freedom. Tuna rise to keep wave, come on flags of freedom unrelenting. Flags of freedom, tuna rise to keep wave, come on flags of freedom. Humanity, showing up to maintain our sanity, adapting to love in this reality. With hope you can see, we struggle to be heroes rising. We believe pamoja we can achieve. Rise to kiwave, come on flags of freedom. Tuna rise to kiwave, come on flags of freedom unrelenting. Flags of freedom, tuna rise to kiwave, come on flags of freedom. Flags of freedom. Flags of freedom. Flags of freedom. Flags of freedom.
Young kings, the queen, vijana boys, the key. Upon is what I feel, we're twin jalopy. Listen now, tomorrow will rain. Pour on me, please quench my thirst. Bring in peace, oh that's my wish. Kenya, yeah, money, yes, see together. Beautiful people, yeah, Mama Africa. See the sun rising, we go get up. For the better, so look, we achievers. Hakuna kulala, I'm not ready for game, I'm not ready for blame. For the choice I make, yeah, for the choice I make, yeah.
Rise to kiwave, come on flags of freedom. Tuna rise to kiwave, come on flags of freedom unrelenting. Flags of freedom, tuna rise to kiwave, come on flags of freedom. Flags of freedom. Flags of freedom. Flags of freedom. Flags of freedom.
MC Benny and I Jane. Peace to the world.
And there you have it, the Kenya Amani song. I dare say that the official video for this song is going to be shot at the YouLead Summit. And for those of you that still don't know, the YouLead Summit is back, bigger and better. If you want to know more about the summit, you just need to go on our website, www.youleadafrica.youlead.africa. And then you will be able to find out how to be part of this year's summit. But for now, I just want to know whether Daniel is back. And Daniel, while you signal me, I just want to remind all of us that the Kenya Amani campaign was launched on 20th of June, 2022. and it went for nearly 3 months. And to say that we reached 1 million young people in the region in 3 months or under, that is something to celebrate. I see Daniel has indicated that he can now hear us. Daniel, you can now come in and conclude.
All right, thank you for that. Sorry for the internet hitch. You know, we are always humbled by the internet here in Africa, but we'll work towards that solution. So to this, I see people had not heard me because of that hitch. Now, as I was saying earlier, the campaign, the online campaign was able to be executed with a number of interventions, this being mainly online. And so since its inception, that was on 25th, on May 25th, the campaign executed the first Kenya Amani Twitter space that was hosted by YouLead Consortium from Uganda and moderated by Moyenda Reagan, discussing the role of youth in fostering peace and Pan-Africanism in solidarity with Kenya Amani. Now, this was very crucial in trying to harness the zeal and enthusiasm of the youth from Uganda to come together and harmonize their energy towards Kenya Amani. That was executed as the first Twitter space that was conducted by the YouLead Consortium in Uganda. We also held other subsequent Twitter spaces in Tanzania, South Sudan, Burundi, Rwanda, and Kenya finally. And so all these Twitter spaces were trying to bring together youth from across the East African region towards a common goal, that is to achieve a peaceful campaign and a peaceful election in Kenya. So this was very important to use online Twitter space to bring together the youth from all corners of this region to work together towards achieving a peaceful election in Kenya. So we largely, maximize the use of Twitter spaces to achieve that. And so we did not have in this initiative. In the future, we also had the Kenya Amani Unplugged series hosted on YouLead and ESE app social platforms by different moderators to, have the same goal insisted in different platforms so as to, stress this
Daniel, we are losing you again.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
All right. So, internet. So we also had, as a very successful intervention, we had secured a TV interview with K24, a Kenyan national television in Kenya, where we had representatives from the ESE Youth Ambassador and also the mobilizer from Kenya, the Kenya Amani Country mobilizer from Kenya. That was Wairimu Manyara and Kazena Zahiget, who went to represent the online campaign on a national television here in Kenya, which reached out to a lot of people, the people who could not be able to access this information and the campaign online. They were able to watch this campaign on a television. So we had two sets that was done as an interview and the other one as a news bite. So that was a great achievement for us as the campaign. And to stress that, post-election in Kenya has been so peaceful, no any forms of violence traced anywhere in the country. Electors went to their respective polling stations, voted, and went about their daily engagements. awaiting results, and that characterized the whole process. You know, this time, for the first time, you know, it's a historical, you know, deliberation in Kenya that youth declined the call of violence and choose to be the instruments of peace, surprisingly. Now, you know, we could also see leaders who lost elections coming together, you know, to concede defeat, have a cup of tea, you know, and say, you know, this country is bigger than our aspirations. So that was very beautiful for us as a country. To see that was very motivating. And the first people who did that, you know, set the pace for the rest of the leaders who conceded defeat and you know, said in unison that, you know, this country is bigger than our dreams. So you know, that was very special for us in this campaign. And we also highlighted those stories, including the most talked about the former Nairobi gubernatorial candidate, Polycarp Igathe, and the current governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, who had a cup of tea with smiles all over, you know, telling the country that, you know what, elections are just something very little. You know, it's a right thing supposed to execute with a lot of peace. So there's nothing like, you know, fighting for positions of power. So that was very peaceful, you know, powerful for us as a campaign to highlight and tell the whole world that, you know what, Kenya is, you know, is achieving this. So, you know, this has been an amazing peace campaign from all fronts, and the dream has been realized. Now, even after the court ruling, you know, a lot of people are saying, you know, if the ruling will go otherwise, you know, there will be chaos. By you know, that was proven wrong. That even after the court ruling, the country remained peaceful, and people saying, you know, this is just an event. We need to move on and wait for the next elections to exercise our right and choose the leaders we want. Otherwise, for this time, it's gone, and we accept and we put this country as the first priority. So that was very powerful from us. And we also highlighted that from our campaign. And so that came out very powerfully. So, you know, going to the data and statistics, we used our social platforms perfectly to achieve this. That's why we came, after tallying all our numbers from across all our social platforms, we found that this campaign actually reached out to 1 million youth, but a little bit higher with some numbers. It's still growing up to today. But up to by the time the campaign was being concluded, we had already clocked 1 million young people in the whole region. So, but you know, looking at our statistics, we realized that our main audience was from Kenya, which was very important to target the people from Kenya. But I understand that as we go forward, now as we shift our attention to other countries, we'll be able to, you know, bring these numbers to almost at the same level, so that we have a uniform audience, you know, subscribing to the idea of a peaceful region across East Africa. So we had our big number coming from Kenya. We also had a big number, you know, in terms of gender audience. We had men, you know, being our main audience, with a 73% of the total audience being men. Women came at least a little bit lower. And then we had our main audience age bracket running from 18 to 44 years of age. So that, of course, that was our main target, and we achieved that. Men, of course, you understand that in case of any violence erupting in the country, men are the main characters in that play. So that was a big achievement for us to target, to reach out to many men compared to women. Although both are important, but men were much more important in terms of our target audience. So for that, we achieved. Something else that was very important is being able to have all countries in the EAC region, including DRC Congo, you know, working out tirelessly towards this campaign. So that, you know, showed that Kenya does not really matter as a country by itself, but also as a big brother to the rest of East African countries in the entire region. So that was very important to set the pace even in the next phase of action in terms of peace attainment in the whole region. So that was very powerful from the campaign. We also had the country mobilizers from all the countries so that we have that balanced representation from all the countries in terms of mobilization, the personnel, the resources in terms of the human resource. So we had that representation from all countries, from Kenya all the way to DRC. So that was also an achievement from our side, rather than having a campaign that is centrally by the one person or a number of people from one region, but rather having people from all countries that are represented in the region. So that was the achievement, and we also acquired peace, and we look forward to having this campaign replicated in other areas of the EAC jurisdiction to have peaceful as our main tool in East Africa. I'll just have to talk about the challenges, which are not very many, which are very few. For example, one of the challenges that we faced is the digital or technological challenges, where we had internet problems in some regions of the EAC, where we could not be able to carry out the discourse entirely. Such as, for example, in South Sudan, we experienced a bit of internet problems there while carrying out the Twitter space in South Sudan. And so we did not really get out a good deliberation in South Sudan in terms of our discussion as we had done all across other countries. Somehow we did not catch something there because of that technological problem in terms of internet. But going forward, we expect that to be solved in our East African region. It's a problem, it's a big problem when trying to carry out an online campaign, because of course internet and technology at large is not well utilized in this region. And so as we go forward, we expect that we will be in uniform at the end of the day to see to it that every country has a stable internet and can be able to carry out a very important event such as that with ease, with no any internet interactions. So that was our major problem, the technological stroke internet challenge in the entire campaign. Another challenge was the physical interaction. Like you all understand that we carried the online campaign online entirely, apart from just towards the end of the campaign, where we had the election observer mission people from the EAC app, coming to the country and carrying out this, this.
Daniel, are you done with your submission? All right. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing with us the journey of the EAC Youth Agenda. Again, the journey of the Kenya Amani campaign. Again, congratulations to you and the team that you worked with, that the team of country mobilizers, to the consortium members of all partner states, the consortium, the consortium groups for the consortium members working with YouLead Africa in all partner states. Congratulations to the EAC Youth Ambassadors platform, to the YouLead Secretariat, and to the whole young people in East Africa for the successful campaign. Like I was saying, this campaign, for those that recall, was launched on June 20th by the Right Honorable Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Right Honorable Martin Ngoga, and it had all the power and the political support from the EAC Secretariat. For those of you that watched the video of the Kenya Amani campaign, you must have noticed that we had National Youth Council chairpersons, our EAC ambassadors from Kenya, that had a meeting with East African Community Secretary General, who, by the way, is also from Kenya, and shared with him this vision ahead of the official launch of this campaign. It is so nice that this culminated into the EAC Youth Ambassadors being part of the Election Observer Mission. We shall, like I shared earlier, be hearing from them their experience while they were in Kenya and what their take home is in relation, of course, to the campaign that we were running. That said, now I just want us to move on with our program in the interest of time, but I see that the Kenya Amani song fired up the chat, so I think it will be unfair not to give MC Benny. MC Benny, if you have a minute, if you are available to just quickly talk about this song, what inspired you and the team that was behind it, what inspired the lyrics, and then we can move on from that. MC Benny?
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, you can hear me. Thanks. First, Sebastian, thank you so much, everyone who is right now tuned in. As you heard before, I'm MC Benny, the man behind the YouLead song and then also Kenya Amani song campaign. I must say that it was really the timing, and it was really the appropriate time for us to come out as artists to see that we contribute towards a peaceful election in Kenya, because Kenya has been having good records of bad aftermath or after election. And our vision was just to let the young people understand that they are no longer tools to be used. And I'm very, very happy that their decisions were respected during the YouLead, during the election time. So I have to say that this song, those who thought about it, I must give credit to you, the ambassadors, the YouLead team, and then Young Africa, Horn of Africa Youth Network, and then all those who supported the movement, because it wasn't easy, and it wasn't going to be easy for us as artists just to come and say we also want to contribute. And I want to say that forever we shall stand in for peace, and we shall continue raising the flag of freedom. Where there is no freedom, there will be no peace. And when we raise the flag of freedom, we expect that there will be peace in that area. And we are happy that we made it. You know, congratulations to all the Kenyans who participated in the election. No matter what went on, just know that you did it. And thank you for keeping it peaceful. That's what I can say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, MC Benny. I see Stanislas is still saying that the song is really, really good. I will be playing this song again while we end this reflection, but I again encourage that whoever wants to be part of the official video of this song, it is going to be short at the YouLead Summit. Yes, MC Benny.
Yeah, so sorry. I just wanted to encourage everyone, whoever is on the platform right now, just to go to the YouTube, like the page, subscribe for more updates, and then also people can throw in their short clips and putting the hand of YouLead, and then whatever they feel like saying. But let us keep pushing hard so that other people who may be going through political activities, they can have the chance to use the song.
Indeed, indeed, and the link to the song on YouTube has also been shared on the chat. So for those of you that have really loved it, you can go interact with it and throw your comment under the song to really show how you feel about it. Let's celebrate our creative young minds in the region, and let us also enjoy the peaceful message in a youthful way. That said, we are now moving on. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing the outcomes of the Kenya Amani campaign, and thank you so much, MC Benny, for sharing a small reflection on what happened behind the scenes when you were creating that song. Now we are going into the next segment, and this segment is the validation of the EAC Youth Agenda. You all remember that in 2020, for those that do not, I will just give a quick background. In 2020, His Excellency Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, during the YouLead Summit, launched the process of consultations for the EAC Youth Agenda. And these consultations were not out of the blue. So let me share this agenda in its raw form, because it cannot take any other form until it is validated by the people that were consulted. So I'll be sharing the agenda in its raw form. We interact with it, and then we shall share comments. I also need to say that I know that for some people, because of the interest of time, we might not have enough thought process at this time. This document is also going to be shared, and because everyone that is on this call registered to be part of it, which means that we do have your email addresses. What we shall be doing after this reflection is we are going to share this document with you in a comment form, such that you do not edit the content, but you can add comments against the content of the document. That way, for those of you that had more input into the document, you can be able to add comments, and then the team that is drafting the document, the technical team, will be able to take note of those comments and include them, after which this agenda will be officially launched and disseminated during the YouLead Summit 2022. Here we go. For this session, I will be facilitating it, but I want to say that it has had the leadership of my colleague, Ange Mutoni. Ange is on the call, and I just wanted to make that credit to her. So the EAC Youth Agenda 2021 to 2025, drafted by the EAC Youth Ambassadors and the YouLead Secretariat. We do have our preamble, which is mostly defining, giving our stance as young people in the region. We, the youth of the EAC, noting that the year 2021 marks 22 years since the East African Community was established, and relying on the findings of the EAC Youth Governance Architecture, affirming the role of the international and regional legal instruments and national legal frameworks and policies of the EAC partner states in setting the benchmarks for the rights and duties of the youth. The preamble goes on. This is largely a technical preamble, but like I say, I am going to be able to share the document with all of us so that we have an in-depth input of our contributions. I know that these are already our contributions because they are outcomes of the consultations that were made. But the moment you feel that maybe there is something that you remember contributing that is not yet captured, that is the whole purpose of this validation, for us to ensure that we are leaving no voices and no opinions of the EAC youth behind. So after the preamble, it concludes by setting out what the EAC Youth Agenda seeks to achieve. And it says that the EAC Youth Agenda seeks to, 1, highlight the voices and aspirations of youth in the EAC region and raise the profile of issues requiring policy attention and investment. It also seeks to offer an inspiration reference for youth to enhance their capacities, talents, and build platforms to effectively participate in the social, political, economic development processes of the EAC. And then it also seeks to highlight the role of government authorities, development partners, and other stakeholders in creating an enabling environment for youth participation in governance and development processes. Therefore, we present this youth agenda, which reflects the current situation, encompassing the ongoing efforts, opportunities, identified gaps, and a list of solutions for consideration by the respective stakeholders in the next 5 years. And then we do have a section of why the EAC Youth Agenda. I will only read the first paragraph in the interest of time, but we shall all have an opportunity to review the whole document. So the first paragraph said YouLead Africa and the EAC Youth Ambassadors platform carried out the first edition of the Youth Governance Architecture in 2020 study series. examining the enabling environment for youth participation in leadership within the EAC region. And following a series of consultations on the youth governance architecture in the EAC, youth expressed the desire to have a common regional framework that represents their collective voice and serves as a framework for the collective mobilization, collaboration, solidarity action as key stakeholders in the East African community integration process. And then, of course, we do give a background that was mostly speaking to the statistics of young people in the region and the continent, and why it is dire for young people to have this collective document. We shall all have access to this. And then we came, during the consultations, there were two key priorities that young people in the region were mostly interested in. The first was inclusion at political level, and the second was inclusion at economic level. So when we start with inclusion at political level, as a great percentage of the population demography, the participation of youth in political processes is in EAC are a key indicator of its democratic posture. From the number of youth who turn out to vote rather than stand for election, youth populations in the EAC partner states are having a tangible impact on the political interplay within the community. Harnessing this participation can edge the community closer to the necessary people-centered integration it aspires to. And under the political inclusion priority, we did have two interests. The first was policy and legal framework, and then the second was leadership. And you will notice that I'm taking more time on the priorities because it is indeed the gist of the agenda. Under the policy and legal framework, we say that the EAC, and these were your voices, that the EAC has made great strides in documenting and recognizing the vital role youth can and indeed play for the success of the integration process. And the Treaty for the Establishment of the Community explicitly recognizes youth as a key interest group and implicitly calls for partner states to have youth representation emulated at regional level in the East African Legislative Assembly, assuming that such representation already exists in partner state national parliaments. However, the 2013 EAC Youth Policy expands the frontiers of youth participation in political processes beyond their national borders to provide to provide a key institutional framework, which is the EAC Youth Council. For those of you that have interacted with the EAC Youth Policy, we did have a lot of concerns by the youth during the consultations, calling for the operationalization, the full implementation of this policy, which provides for, among many other things, the EAC Youth Council, which would be the apex body that represents youth voices at the EAC Secretariat. Just like we have EALA members, our MPs constituting at regional level the EALA, we would have our youth leadership at national level, the National Youth Councils, the civil societies, the youth ambassadors, all make a contribution to the EAC Youth Council. It also goes ahead to say that the operationalization of the EAC Youth Policy provides a good participation avenue for non-state actors like youth, civil society organizations, which interact with a multitude of everyday youth in the East Africa, in the community. To engage the community with their views and issues, it is notwithstanding that the promulgation of the EAC Youth Policy would lead to the operationalization of the Youth Council, the Regional Youth Council, the EAC Youth Council, which would serve as a youth apex body for political representation at regional level. The community therefore needs to expedite the processing of the draft policy to create the EAC Youth Council and thereby guarantee the participation of youth in the EAC governance. Yes, during the consultations and research that we made, and I also wanted to note that the consultations were not just to young people. We also had every other interest group. We had partner state government officials joining those consultations. We did have also officials from the EAC joining the consultations and officials from EALA. And that is how we found out that there is already a draft policy that was made that is yet to be passed by IALA to then operationalize the EAC Youth Council. The second thing was leadership, and it says that over time, the EAC has instituted mechanisms of engaging youth in the affairs of the community and offered youth platforms to engage with different structures of leadership at regional level. These have taken form of the East African University and school debates, dialogues, and seminars. These mechanisms have contributed greatly towards the institutionalization of youth participation by carving out designated positions through which they can represent the interests of their constituencies. This approach created the EAC Youth Ambassadors Platform, as well as the East African Youth Network. While these efforts have gone a long way in making youth inclusion a reality, they don't enjoy incentivized statuses with the actors in the community. There is a need to commit resources to enable EAC youth leaders to increase the interest of the community's youth in the EAC agenda and thereby nurture peer-to-peer influence. The partner states also provide for key elements of political youth inclusion through quotas at national assemblies and local government structures. While these do not guarantee quality representation, they safeguard the space for active representation. Using the provision for representation of all shades of political opinion and groups in national assemblies, youth should be entrenched as a quota within the East African Legislative Assembly. This would spur the community's will to work with young people at the vast call of their inclusion. We also noted during these consultations that at IALA, there is no explicit law that requires partner states to send a youth representative. Yes, partner states have over time been so willful and are considerate of the youth demographic and ensure that at least 2 of the 9 MPs that they send to IALA are youth, but it is still not entrenched in the law and it is at the mercy of partner states and the will of partner states. So we also, during the consultations, the youth demanded that this should be there should be a caveat and say that no, a particular quota goes to youth representation in IALA. And this is what is reflected here. Therefore, there were 2 major demands under the Youth in Political Inclusion. The first one, to fully implement and operationalize the EAC youth policy. And then the second one, to increase resource allocation to EAC youth structures to further mainstream youth participation in the EAC integration process. So that was it with youth in political, for youth in political inclusion. For those that have comments, if you feel that something has been left out, you can share those comments on the chat here. But better yet, you can also, while you share them here, you will also have an opportunity to exactly place a comment to the place you feel that the gap you have identified fits so well. The second thing we shall go to is the concept of inclusion at the economic level. And this says that in order to enhance meaningful youth inclusion, benefits and participation in trade and commerce in the region, there are a number of strategies that individual partner states and communities and the community as a whole need to review, repurpose, and reset. These strategies can view youth as contributors to economic policy formulation. Further, young people can be the beneficiaries of policy decisions designed to cushion and protect their business interests from challenges like cumbersome export regimes. And then here we did have 4. Yes, we did have 4 specific priorities under the youth at the inclusion at economic level. The first one was the common East African identity for a successful regional economic inclusion of the youth as a baseline. And non-discrimination practice based on the East African common identity should be fostered in all the member states of the community. The ability of East Africans to live and work within the region and work with the member states to identify opportunities to remove barriers in movement within the region. The youth had an appreciation of the common market protocol during our consultations, but they also added that there were very many NTBs, the non-tariff barriers that were hindering trade across the borders within the EAC. And that is why a big call for a common East African identity was made to remove those biases of you're Kenyan, you can't enter Uganda, you're Ugandan, you can't enter Rwanda, you're Rwandan, you can't enter DRC, and so on and so forth. So that is the concept that youth who are involved in trade gave us that feedback and said that it would go a long way of removing that non-tariff barrier by creating a common East African identity. The second was targeting micro, small, medium, and micro, small, and medium enterprises. With the East African Business Council, the private sector can play a vital role in fostering market fluidity of micro, small, and medium enterprises. These provide employment for the majority of youth in the region. The case for lower costs of doing business for enterprises that employ young people is best guaranteed by ensuring that they have representative voices within the platforms that design and influence EAC trade policies and laws. This would extend to all pivotal commitments between EAC and other economic communities like EAC, SADC, COMESA, tripartite trade agreements. And this, of course, goes without saying that young people put their foot on the ground and say that there is no EAC for us without us. They say that stop having experts going to make deals without representatives from MSMEs. And that is where that concept was captured. The third was building on trade proliferation. And economic inclusion for youth should incorporate supporting factors for higher economic activity that can attract youth interest in regional trade. For instance, incentivizing the environment for business clusters, which require low capital inputs and minimal formalization, would facilitate capacity building for youth to engage with regional market needs and cross-border collaboration. And last, but by no means, young people in the region said that, yes, they might have the will, they might have the zeal, they might have the, and I'll quote this, vibe, but there is still a gap in skilling and job apprenticeships. And under that, there are gaps in innovation, creativity, efficiency in the business environment, and capital for young people to scale up their emerging businesses across all partner states. Targeted business apprenticeship programs that foster capacity enhancements and provide for industry growth across the community would initiate youth into bigger market perspectives and provide an expanded view on the need and nature of participation by youth. In practical terms, a regime of incentives such as tax incentives should be established to encourage the captains of industry not only to employ young people, but to facilitate their business growth. This is necessary to break barriers erected by partner states. It will go a long way by facilitating the entry of young people into the arena of economic governance. And we identified that the key demands under this priority of youth inclusion in business, the first was that youth in the region should be granted equal access to commercial and investment opportunities, resources to embark on entrepreneurial ventures, available jobs, and access to markets in all partner states, regardless of nationality. The second was a fully operational common market, and states should work to remove policy barriers that would otherwise limit access to opportunities and markets in their jurisdictions, consistent with the protocol of the common market. I already gave you that background that youth had identified gaps in implementation of the common market protocol. And then the third was facilitating labor mobility, intra-African knowledge and skills transfer, promoting East African identity, social integration and tourism, improving trans-border infrastructure and shared development, and fostering a comprehensive approach to border management. Then market fluidity is instrumental in cushioning costs of business registration and partnership ventures across the partner states, which allows for amicable dispute resolution. And last but by no means least, common financing models for youth businesses, regionally agreed practices for access to credit for low-cost businesses, post-registration recognition across ESC trade incentives, including tax, market, and regulatory incentives. And for any business people on the call today, you do recall that when we were making these consultations, access to credit and financing for young people that have SMEs was a big issue that was raised, and that is why it is very vehemently highlighted in the demands here. So that brought us to the end of the agenda, citing the two critical priorities that were identified among the very many things young people had mentioned. And of course, we did have a conclusion and an appreciation note, which I will just go through very quickly. And then if there is any feedback, I will take it before we go into our next agenda item. And the conclusion was that following the YGA, which is the Youth Governance Architecture 2020 study, which by the way, you can go, this Youth Governance Architecture, you can go on the YouLead website and have an interaction with it. The study and the consultations conducted under the aegis of the East African Community Youth Agenda, gaps in the inclusion of youth, youth in the region's political and economic governance were identified. This process also proposed solutions to fill the identified gaps as expressed in the agenda above. It is apparent that with the necessary policies, a robust legislative framework and political will, the proposed solutions can be translated into reality, consistent with the objectives of the treaty that establishes the ESC. That way, the viability of the community as a regional economic community will receive a much needed shot in the arm, effectively enhancing the position of the region as a premier investment destination. And we also had an appreciation note for everyone that took part in the agenda, that felt that the success of this agenda hinges on the ability of relevant stakeholders to work hand in glove. Of particular importance is the ESC Secretariat, National Governance, Development Partners, Civil Society Organization, and the various formations that convene the region's young people. The East African Community Youth Agenda is eternally grateful to the young people of the ESC for overwhelmingly turning up in large numbers for the consultations and for the enthusiasm with which they constructively participated. The process owes a great debt of gratitude to MS Training Center for Development Cooperation, the East African Community Secretariat, government ministries responsible for ESC, members of parliament representing young people in the different partner states, YouLead partners, the YouLead Consortium members, trade representatives, and the steerage provided by members of the East African Community Youth Ambassadors Platform. Last but by no means least, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the YouLead Africa patron and former president of the United Republic of Tanzania, His Excellency Dr. Jakaya Mrisho Kikwete, for launching and supporting the consultation process. East Africa, we move it. And then that brings us to the end of the agenda. So if there are any comments or reactions towards the agenda, now is a good time to share those reactions so that they can be captured. But I will say this one last time, like I promised earlier, this is going to be shared to each and every one of you for your comments. And the comments will be open from today, Monday, through the whole week. We are going to request your feedback from today all through the week. And by Friday, we shall capture all the inputs that have been made and then incorporate them and ensure that the agenda is taken to the next stage. And to conclude about the agenda, I also want to say that this agenda is not going to remain a document. It is going to have to be owned by you, youth of East Africa, that have suggested it, that have contributed to its creation, which means that when it is created, it will be upon us to share it with our members, to our MCAs, to our representatives in parliament, to our government ministers and cabinet secretaries, to our leaders in our communities, to ensure that the interests of young people towards achieving the East African community are at the forefront. And how we show that is by telling them, look here, we do have a sense of direction. And that sense of direction created this document that we think will be a very clear guide to what we need from you as our representatives, as our leaders. And then it is from that each and every one of us, Daniel said that from the numbers of the interaction of the Kenya Amani campaign, 1 million young people were interested in this peace campaign that we made for the region, which means that 1 million young people should be able to pick up the agenda and say, look here, this is our document, we are owning it, and we want the outcomes of this document to be considered, both at national level and at regional level. That is the idea, and we hope that when the agenda is ready, we can all collectively jump on to achieve this ownership and to sell this agenda to the powers that be. That said, I see that there are no reactions in the comment section, save for Kemboy that says, I would like to be part of the summit. Yes, I'm going to request my colleagues, or not, I will just share it here. For those that want to be part of the YouLead Summit, you can go on the website. I have shared the link to learn more about the summit. And when you get there, you realize that the portal for application of the summit is yet to be released. And the big news is that registration for the YouLead Summit that is happening this December from 12th to the 16th is, okay, I'll spill. The good news is that registration for the summit will be released before the end of this week. So if I were you, I would keep an eye out for anything that is happening on the YouLead socials, but also the registration is only going to happen through a portal on the website. So you want to have your website, your YouLead Summit website open either on your handset or on your laptop. That said, thank you so much, Stanislas, for congratulating us on the good work. I dare say that we only put together what young people in East Africa had suggested earlier. Abdul, thank you so much too. And now allow me usher us into our next segment for this afternoon, which is going to break out to our rooms. I am going to, first of all, welcome my colleague Kemi to tell us how we are technically going to break into these rooms. Then before we go, I will offer guidance on which people are going to which room. Okay, I think Kemi will be able to do that. And then I'm just going to share questions, guiding questions for people going in specific rooms to know what they are working with. So I will, while Kemi speaks, I will be sharing these guiding questions on the chat. Kemi?
All right, sorry for the delay there. So we are going to move into the breakout room session of this. You have all been assigned to various breakout rooms. You won't really need to do anything. I'll literally just start and then you'll find that your screen is switching you to a breakout room. Each of the rooms have leaders who have been previously assigned who will guide you through the session. It will be 30 minutes and to the leaders, there will be a timer when you're in your last minute just to make sure that you can close before the 30 minutes are up. And yeah, that's it. With your permission, Seba, I can go ahead and open the breakout rooms.
Yes, just give me a minute. Let me just share the questions on the chat. Then maybe we can also share them on in the breakout rooms. So I also want to add that when you go into the breakout rooms, we shall require you to self-organize and choose one person or two who will come and make a presentation to us as a plenary when the breakout rooms are done. I also say that we shall only have up to 30 minutes for the breakout rooms. So I have shared the guiding questions, and this I think is the last, the guiding questions to the breakout rooms. And before that, I just want to know, Jen Ndolo, Jen, is your question about the EAC Youth Agenda? Before we break out, I see your hand has been up for a while. Jen, are you able to hear us? Okay, you can fire away. Do ask. Apologies for skipping you earlier. Okay, I imagine you are trying to type. I hope that's the issue. Okay, so I think what we can do is that Jen will be priority when we return for plenary, but for now, we are going to have our breakout sessions. Thank you, Charles, for the feedback. And indeed, the document will be shared with all of us. All right, Kemi, over to you. You can open up the breakout rooms and then allocate everyone where they are supposed to be. Please remember that you need to choose a leader when you go into the breakout rooms so that we can have feedback in form of our reporting. Feedback in form of reporting to the plenary. Jen says political leaders have failed to come up with public policies. Maybe you will want to elucidate on that to clearly portray what you're trying to communicate. That will be much appreciated. Over to you, Kemi.
All right, I am just going to go ahead and activate this, and then you'll just, your screen should take you directly to your breakout room.
Very well then.
Recording in progress.
Welcome back. I believe everyone is back with us now. Yes, I know the system will bring everyone back automatically. Welcome back to the open plenary, and congratulations on the successful deliberations in the breakout rooms. I want to believe that as earlier guided, every group is now ready to share the outcomes of their deliberations. And this is going to be the guidance around time allocation. We had 6 groups. So for every group, we are going to use 7 minutes to have these deliberations. Hear from you the feedback in response to the guiding questions. After which, we are going to start with ES Youth Ambassadors. Then we shall hear from the civil society organizations. Then we shall hear from Group A, Group B, Group C, and lastly, we shall end with youth who dared to run for office. So the representative of the East African Community Youth Ambassadors Platform, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Maybe you could start with introducing yourself and your portfolio, and then you proceed within 7 minutes. Let me make sure I'm timing here.
Okay, thank you so much, Sebastian. My name is Mabil James Madid. I am the ES Youth Ambassador to South Sudan, but also I am the ES Youth Ambassadors Platform Regional Coordinator, together with Waini Manyara. I will be making my submission basically on the election observer missions that included young people across the ESC partner states, and then more basically that brought together youth ambassadors from all the 6 partner states of the ESC. The questions that were basically asked, which we are required to have submissions on, is like, the first question for us is, as a young person who participated in Kenyan elections, as an election observer, what have you learned about youth participation in electoral processes? So we have divergent views basically because we're very many when we went there. But I'm going to give some sort of elaborate presentation that captures views of each and every ambassador. First of all, elections are things that usually happens in our society, and to have them happen last month, but I mean in August in Kenya, it's just that process which every country basically anticipates and looks forward to. So as a young person who went to participate as an election observer in Kenya, I think one of the things I've learned is that one, elections shape our society. They shape democratic processes. They shape the lifestyles of the people. They create standards for the livelihoods. And how was that practical in my view? It was practical in such a way that when people go for elections, you have a leader that is voted in, a leader that represents your views, a leader that represents your community, a leader that aspires for the prosperity of the people. I think that was something we learned about so much in Kenya because the electoral process was so competitive. We had seen leaders go for campaigns, especially prior to the elections day. We had witnessed a lot of intensity that that was coming from the voters, from the candidates themselves, and we realized that people are so eager to want to see a leader that they aspire to represent them, a leader that captures their views, a leader that will put the standards of the Kenyan people to some level. So basically, I learned that people were so prepared in the elections. They were so prepared in such a way that the intensity was really something that was quite sporadic, and everyone in Kenya wanted to have a leader that quite resonates with their feelings, with their views. So, but then one thing also is the kind of exercise that was seen. I mean, in terms of electoral processes that were employed in Kenya, I think Kenya remarkably stands out in the region as one of those countries that employed one of the best systems in the region in terms of election management. And I think that was basically one of the things we learned. Where I come from, we haven't had elections for some time, and to see that Kenyans employed such a system that was so sophisticated and that followed all the procedures was such a remarkable sort of lessons for me. And I think moving forward, it's some lesson which we want to have replicated in our countries. So we learned that the system that was employed in Kenya was such a good system that we should be able to copy in Kenya. I mean, in the EAC region. But then what is the third thing that we also learned? We learned that young people were like very much integral in the process of elections in terms of them being not only voters but also being candidates that aspire to be voted in, and then also taking very technical roles in the what we call in the IEBC that put together the elections and stuff like that. So young people were very much, especially women. We have seen that the composition of the IEBC itself, especially in the polling centers, majority were women, and they were playing very, 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 very fundamental role in terms of seeing successful conduct of the elections. So that was one of the things we looked at. But then what is the second question we were asked to address? The second question says that while staying in Kenya, you have interacted with young people in Kenya. What did you understand as opportunities for young people during the elections? I think that question still resonates with some of the views I did mention earlier. One of the most fundamental opportunities in an election is the fact that you have now a very decent chance to vote for a leader that you want. I think many young people in Kenya have the opportunity to be able to choose the leaders that they think can represent their interests. But then what is the other opportunity? The second opportunity is that though it's not something that cut across all the political parties in Kenya. I see that many young people were able to buy for positions as MCAs. Some young people were actually buying for positions like members of parliament, and that was something I hardly see in some parts of the years. So there was that opportunity for youth in Kenya to be able to actually buy for electoral positions, and and to want to become leaders. I think that's a very strange thing for us here where I come from, and perhaps in some other part of the region. I think that was an opportunity for all the young people in Kenya, and that was largely guaranteed by the fact that Kenya is such a decent democracy in terms of what we have seen lately. So I think that was one of the opportunities we have noticed. Then what is the second opportunity we also looked at? We looked at uh, the the content creation that was employed prior to the elections. We saw a good number of young people engage themselves in terms of media engagement by creating content that normally was meant to educate the public on voter registration, on voting on the elections day, but also largely on political education in terms of what do we expect from leaders? Why should we be able to vote some leaders in? I think majority of youth in Kenya were very much involved in media engagement, and that was also seen. That was also joined by colleagues from the region, especially those of us who participated in the Kenya Yamani campaign. I think that was an opportunity for young people to express themselves and engage with their peers and look forward to seeing the fact that Kenya conducts free and fair elections that were able to culminate into something peaceful and then something that would prosper Kenya. Third question, which
Eben, I mean, Mabil, your time is fast spent. What I request you do is maybe conclude in a minute, and then for the rest of the issues, you can help with typing them in the chat box in the interest of time. Is that fine?
Thank you.
All right, just 1 minute, please.
Yes, I want to be able to say that in this call, as young people in the East African community, we have a very powerful voices that can be heard, and then the only way those voices can be heard is when we take up lead roles and take up initiatives that carry our interest, initiatives that get ourselves involved. I think we had that opportunity in the Kenyan election. We want to see that happen even more as we move forward. We have seen some other things that I would be able to mention later in the chat box, like the challenges and maybe look at the further opportunities. So thank you everyone for listening to me. I had a very lengthy day. I wasn't actually very much prepared for this, but yeah, thanks for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Mabil, for sharing that reflection from the EAC Youth Ambassadors. And yes, I did hear you say that in your opinion and the opinion of the ambassadors that IEBC deployed and employed some of the most sophisticated system to manage the elections. I was curious to see whether you are going to talk about the opaqueness of the nature of the system, but I didn't hear that, so I guess we can move on. I would like now to welcome the representative from the civil society organizations to share with us in the next 7 minutes. CSOs, who did we nominate to?
Stanislaus is our representative. Kindly unmute and share stand.
Great.
Okay, let me share. So on our side, we discussed about...
Stanislaus, if you could start with an introduction for the benefit of the whole team.
Okay.
And our audience following virtually, yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Stanislaus Innocent Mrangwa. I'm from Tanzania, Africa Youth Transformation. So here is what we discussed. Based on the first question, as a part of the civil society. So we saw a lot of things, but here to mention, few. The first one is about the young people were more open to participate in the election due to exposure about leadership. So this was through a lot of online sessions were conducted before the election about how the importance the election it is, about how the important they used to participate on it, and the webinar session were a lot. So that's why a lot of young people were open to participate in this election compared to the other elections. Then the second one was about young people were led to show up. A lot of young people are late to show up in this election compared to the other election because their willingness to share their views to those political leaders. That's why a lot of them they were late to show up. Then there is other point which is about the few challenges based on this first question. Due to previous trend about the political issues in Kenya, so a lot of youth failed to participate in election. They were afraid of what may happen maybe when they are there. I mean, they are afraid of what may happen when they go out and choose or elect the leader they want. Maybe they were afraid of sometimes, like we know a lot of time when there's election, there's a lot of misunderstandings and so many things which cannot be good to young people. Then they thought their voice were not heard, and also listen to politicians. That politicians sometimes they don't listen to young people, so a lot of youth they are thinking that maybe they cannot be heard, so there are no need for them to participate in the election. That's what we discussed about the first question. Then there's also a point of lack of knowledge about political decision. A lot of people, especially young people, lack knowledge on political decision. They don't know much about these political decisions. Then coming to the second question, it was about job opportunity. I mean, we had positive and challenges. Based on the positive, about the second question is about job opportunity. A lot of young people got jobs to help politicians, the ideas. A lot of politicians, we know, they don't know how to use technology. They don't know how to figure out good on how to write down their manifestation. So a lot of young people got job on this. They helped these politicians write down their ideas on manifesting. That's how about job opportunity. But also young people are able to share issues that affect the youth through this. So young people are able to share the issues that affect the youth. Example, we know that we have unemployed, a lot of unemployed youth. So young people are able to share these issues which affect us. But also there is opportunity to share what they need, especially to this special groups such as disabilities, young people, unemployed. They were able to share to politicians, we need this, we need this, we need this. So if politicians, they go to their places for explaining what they need, young people are able to share what they need. Like we need for maybe disability, we need to be created good environment for us to work, for us for self-employment and so many other things. Then about the challenge on the second question is about cost of campaign. It's very high. We know that campaign always costs are very high, especially for young people to afford. So a lot of young people fail to participate this because the cost of campaign is very high for them to afford it. Lack of funding to finance campaign. So this leads to lack of funding to finance this campaign for young people. Then on the third question about recommendation, we discussed about law. We recommended that low registration fee for youths. There should be low registration fees for youth, so as a lot of youths can participate on this political position and on leadership. So we saw that there is a clamping of registration fee. These fees are very high for youth to participate. Then the other one, we said that we should ensure that there is mentorship for elected young leaders. This can be done by the government and with support from CSOs, NGOs, and political aid organizations. Yeah, this is all about what we discussed in our CSO society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stan, for that brief, concise, but very elaborate response. And thank you so much for representing the team. All this that is being shared is being documented, and we are going to have an outcome document of this reflection, which will also be shared with everyone that has been on the call. Allow me now to thank the CS, the civil society organizations, and invite the person that led the deliberations in Group A. Mercy, is that you?
Oh, okay. I'm Mercy, to believe party member from Kenya. Our first question, as a young person, what have you learned about his participation in processes, in the electoral processes during the just concluded elections? We had to give one positive answer, which is a life lesson that you should believe in yourself, and when the youth really are passionate and rally together to a common agenda, we can really make it. We gave an example of Bomet County where we gave the woman representative, Bomet County representative is one of our youths aged 24, and she got a lot of support from the fellow youths. And just to cite one, which has been trending, is the person who offered transport, who is also one of the youth and offered free transport throughout the campaigning period. A negative lesson is the high ignorance levels among the youth. This was clearly shown by the low turnout of youths in the elections, and even some who are of the voting age just ignored picking or getting themselves, registering themselves as voters. We go to the second question. What were the opportunities for young people during the elections? One is the IBC opportunities. It was clear and evident that the IBC highly considered the youth, and this time round, even initially we have only been seeing youth being considered for the lower positions, that is the clerical positions, but this time round we had such a big number being given opportunities to work as presiding officers and even deputy presiding officers. So that was a very great opportunity for most of our youths in Kenya. Also, the political parties highly involved and engaged the youth positively when running for the campaigns and even as agents during the election day, which turned out to be a source of income for the youth during the period. The third question is on the challenges that the young people faced during the elections. One is that there was no proper strategies to reach out to the youth, especially on voter education. And even as much as we blame the youth for being ignorant and not registering as voters, one of us cited of an issue where voter registration was not accessible to the youth, and youth being kind of ignorant, just ignored going for long distances to register. Another challenge is that the youth highly depended on handouts, especially even on the election day, and some just ignored, just assumed and refused to go vote deliberately, even at the doorsteps of the polling stations, as they hung out waiting for handouts for them to go vote from the aspirants. On our fourth question, is if you were to advocate for youth-friendly policies for youth participation in the electoral processes, what would be your recommendations? We cited one of constant engagement with the youth. This is, for example, through leadership workshops, which could be sponsored by the government or other partnering agencies, which will build confidence among the youth to even vie for the post. During the elections. Another one is introduce an employment policy where, for instance, during the elections, IBC officials opportunities should be given to at least 75% to the youth. That was our deliberations at Group A. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mercy. We shall now go to the representative of Group B. I also want to appreciate the teams for keeping within the allocated time. That's a very, very good thing. The representative of Team B, Group B, I mean.
Yeah, Mr. Sebastian.
Good.
Yeah, hello, my name is Alex Oburu. I'm from Nairobi. And for Group B, we had a scrivener who was taking down the notes. And basically, we also did the same topic that Group A dealt with. But I'd love to, at this juncture, invite Mr. Andreas Otieno to, exactly state the different, points that we had. Mr. Andreas, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. My name is Andreas Otieno from Kenya. I work for Emerging Leaders Foundation. So for the benefit of time, I think some of the issues that have already been addressed by other groups. I will not repeat them. So I'll just give what may be distances from what they have shared, but still addresses the same issues. So we had 2 positives from the previous election experience that we had from the previous election. So one is that we had amongst us the youth who participated in the election. Like in our breakout team, there was one of us or a good number of us who actually participated in the previous elections. And then there was
I think
what we can. Sorry.
Okay. Otieno, we had lost you for a moment there, but sure, proceed.
All right. So among the negative or what we observed that were negative is that one, the youth still lack the financial resources that are needed for the campaigns. Because the electorates have become very expensive, and you see with the cost of life as well. So then another negative was that largely policies or the agenda do not matter. It is all about which political wing you are in and in which region, and how best can you bargain for the party nomination. If you can maneuver through those, then you can win the elections. It's not about the policies that you're trying to bring on board or what is in your manifesto. So one of us also mentioned that you'd spend more time participating in the elections campaigns to the extent of losing their career, especially maybe those who are in informal sectors. They forgot they needed to get to work and concentrated more in the parties. Another negative was that the civic education among the youth who were vying for office was not done early enough, or the youth were not equipped with enough information that would guide them to submit their papers, for example, in good time. So there was that commotion that was created by those people, those leaders, especially the young ones who were not able to submit their papers in good time. So we went ahead and looked at the challenges, and we will talk about 3 of them. First of all, we noted that there was still a lack of regulation of democracy in political parties, that constitutionally, the political parties are required by law to adhere to democratic principles of good governance. And promote the practice of democracy through regular, fair, and free elections within the party. That is what the Constitution of Kenya states. So in reality, party primaries are internal, and internal selection of leadership in most parties are often chaotic affairs that frequently exclude women and the youth. And it is even more difficult for a female youth to participate in the party politics as compared even to the male youth. So it's a bit chaotic, and these nominations do not promote youth candidates. So the slots are given to seasoned politicians who maybe have the financial muscles to, wrestle it out. Of course, that I've addressed in the same point was the issue of women, gender disparity. If you look at the election dynamics, it is so difficult for a woman to maneuver through because sometimes they face harassment, sometimes there's lack of trust from the electorate to have a female leader. So talking to what are the opportunities for young people? So the one is that young people have now learned from the past, because in this previous election, there was more participation of young people in the electoral process. So if we can find spaces where these people who have vied for the elections can create a platform where they share their experiences and then ask the bigger question of what can they do better, then it will be a learning opportunity for youth to regroup better and to strategically position themselves for the next elections. Then youth also need to be in the policy participation spaces to enable them formulate or champion for youth-friendly policies that will aid in their political activities in the future elections. Then another opportunity for young people is that youth are very integral part of this nation, since majority of them are literate, and we can assume that they understand the challenges that face this country. They can therefore be more vigilant to provide solutions at all sectors. Those who want to join like the civil society organizations, those who want to join political parties, majority of them can start engaging more and early in the civic education processes, so that they can influence the choices that the people of Kenya will largely make when it comes to the general elections. So on the some of the what you can call like solution, we can talk about, you see, in Kenya, since the inauguration of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya, there was the Article 81B that geared the affirmative action. So if you look at the numbers of women that have participated from 2013, 2017, and now, there has been a great increment. And thanks to the Article 81B of the Kenyan Constitution, it has enabled women involvement in matters politics and voting as well. So if the government and the youth can deliberately formulate a law that will someone has shared the screen, and sorry.
I'm sorry about that. The person has been removed. I'm sorry about that, Otieno. If you could kindly conclude.
Yes, so just to conclude, I was talking about the deliberate inclusion of policies that maybe will regulate the political parties, to include young people in the list of who, the number, to regulate the number of youth who should be nominated, maybe, or be given the certificates for the nominations. It will aid a good, it will aid in having more inclusive young people in politics. Yes, that was all from our end. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Otieno. I also want to apologize. We unfortunately had someone interrupt our Zoom, but we have been able, our team working the background has been able to eliminate them. I do apologize for that. We can now proceed to receive someone from Group C, after which we shall be concluding with representative of the people who ran for the elective offices. So Group C. A representative from Group C.
Sebastian, I'm not sure whether our group is Group C. It was not titled, it was not named, but I think since it's the only group remaining, then definitely it's us. Yes, so my name is Bridget Siente. Okay, let me go on. My name is Bridget Siente from Center for Multi-Party Democracy here in Kenya, CMD Kenya. And we had 3 questions. Most of the answers have been given. The question required us to give negatives and positives that we picked from the first question. Required us to answer negative and positives that we picked from this election. And I'll begin with the negatives. So first one, during the consensus during the party nominations denied young people an opportunity to be on the ballot, and even just run. And some of them even decided to run as independent candidates, which we know that where that led them to. Most did not win, and that interfered with their belief in the political system. Number 2, most young people who ran for office did not understand the roles of the offices they were going to run for. You would find young aspirants, youthful aspirants, promising the voters to do for them something that would not ideally fall under their docket. Number 3, the voter bribery was really on a high, and the youth were used. They were given handouts to cause chaos. The youth continue to be used as tools for creating chaos and violence. And then, like everyone has said, like most people have said, there was little civic engagement and little creation of awareness on civic awareness by IBC. And then lastly, because the youth do not have very huge resources. They do not have land that they can sell or property that they can sell to use to get the money for the campaigns. That was another problem that led to youth exclusivity in the electoral process. Yes, that is for the negatives. For the positives, this election was an agenda-based one. It was not an election where the agenda was maybe violence or creating chaos, but the youth this time listened to candidates who are telling them that who are telling them that they're going to reduce the high cost of living. That is what most of the youth were concerned about during this election. Number 2, the technology used to manage the elections, even the KIMS kit, the internet used by the KIMS kit was working in most of the polling stations, which led to the election process being a little bit faster compared to the 2017 one. And even that led to the lines. The lines were not long this time compared to the 2017 election. Of course, little number of the youth were used to create violence as compared to previous elections. Yes, I think and then what I liked and what I noticed and what I liked is the fact that the young people aligned themselves to different political parties and even aligned themselves to lobby groups like maybe Queens na Hustler, Daughters of Raila. At least that gives people a platform for them to lobby and negotiate for something, even during elections and even post-elections. And it was also good to see that okay, I'll talk about that in the opportunity. So that is our answer for the first question. The second question was what opportunities provided themselves for the youth in these elections? And like everyone has said, and youth engagement. youth engagement through IEBC on the electoral processes. We saw formulation of an IEBC youth coordinating committee, and like everyone has said, most of the youth were employed by IEBC to do to tackle various responsibilities like being polling clerks, being POs and DPOs, and even election observers. And another thing I saw is that the elections provided a platform for the youth, women, and even people living with disabilities through their leaders, through their leagues, to advocate for their issues. And you know, during that election time is when politicians can actually listen to you, because once they get into the office, they rarely even pick phone calls, they rarely attend meetings, they are called for. So that was the opportune time for the youth, women, and PWDs to negotiate for their needs and advocate for solving of their problems. And then we also saw a lot of the youth were nominated by political parties after the election, and even a lot of them were given the nomination certificate by the political parties, in as much as maybe they did not win, but it was a step closer for them to win as compared to other election years. So our recommendations from my group was capacity building youth aspirants on resource mobilization. We know that the youth do not have as much resources as the senior citizens or senior politicians who are running for office. So there is need to capacity build the youth on resource mobilization to enable them to get resources for campaigns. The IEBC should ensure that at least one of the commissioners is a young person, and not just give us roles around being polling clerks and DPOs and POs. We need one of us as an IEBC commissioner. The third one, there's need to regulate finance campaigning, so as to create a level playing ground for especially for the youth and women, because that is the most disadvantaged group when it comes to financial matters. And then we need to address political party primaries. They are very problematic. I think that is I can say that is the largest or a huge barrier for the youth and women, because party primaries are chaotic. Party primaries are filled with violence. Party primaries align themselves with maybe nepotism, favoritism. We need to address that. And then we also need to come up with a strategy of ensuring that the youth turn out on election dates. First, I know this year we had a problem we had low youth turnout, but we need to come up with a strategy of ensuring even on the election day that they turn out and vote. And I think the last one for us would be intergenerational mentorship. There's need for those already in office to mentor those who are maybe who want to join politics, or those who are already in politics and are holding lower offices. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Siante, for that. You have been very clear, and I do hear you when you say that probably there should be a cap on how much is spent in election, and also maybe having a youth representative on the IEBC commissioners. Hopefully, I have not read the requirements for one to be a commissioner of IEBC, but hopefully they are the kind that do not require 40 years of experience. That's my prayer. Now we would like to address the elephant in the room, the youth that dared to go and run for political office. The representative of that group, we do welcome you to share your deliberations as our last group to share outcomes of the breakout rooms. And yes, people do keep sharing your views on the chat. I see Jen is still insisting that the 2/3 gender rule should be implemented as a bottom line. I totally agree with you. And I dare say I happened to observe the Kenyan election, and the 2/3 gender rule was something that raised a lot of concern and deliberation in the build-up of the election. So when you say it, I hear you and I understand totally where you're coming from. The representatives of the youth that dared to run.
Thank you very much, Sebastian Ivan. My name is Kiptanui Kogie. I work with Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. I'm from Kenya. I work in the programs department, and I was moderating the group for MPs and other youth who ran for office. Of course, our discussions were centered on the guiding questions that were shared. On the first question, that is the lesson learned during the concluded elections in Kenya. The MP that we had and the youth who yearned to run for election say that the biggest lesson learned was that the youth are really yearning and moving for elected leadership and being elected representatives. And of course, they also mentioned that the youth have decided that indeed they are no longer leaders of tomorrow and they are leaders of today. That is one positive question, one positive lesson learned during the elections. And the negative, of course, on this, there were so many negative lessons learned, especially the most outstanding one was that the young people are still disillusioned on what really political leadership entails. And that is, there is still a huge need to invest in empowering the mindset and changing the mindset. Say that young people do not really run for office to look for opportunities to serve the electorates, but rather for opportunities they think that political leadership is about now improving themselves on the economic front. Also, there's something also stood out was that young people also do not realize how important the election day is. Say that those people running for office and even the politicians who won, I will tell you that you can mobilize young people for 60 days. But then when it comes to the election day, when the IBC has shut down issues of campaign and mobilization, you'll find out that young people still do not really understand how important the election day is and how important the election day matters in terms of elections. Also, one thing also stood out is that in the just concluded elections in Kenya, you would realize that generally and over and above, ideologies do not really sell as much as incentives do. People will come to politics not because they admire your ideologies, but because they admire what you will give them in return. And they'll come there for economic empowerment rather than to listen to your ideologies and how that will change them. Also, there is the issue of finances. It was also another lesson learned was that you really need a lot of finances to run for election in Kenya. And sometimes when you're competing as a young person, maybe it's the first time you're running for office and you're competing against ranking members or long-term politicians or long-term business people, it is really an uphill task for young people. Fast forward to the second question is the opportunities that were there for young people during the election. One thing that stood out is that young people took advantage of the digital media. They really took advantage of the opportunities that were there were issues like publicity, issues of the print media, and issues of doing politics through empowerment activities more than doing politics through convoys and so on and so forth. So this time around, the opportunities that were there that would not apply to another youth group or that were more advantageous to the age group of young people were use of the digital media. Also, on the challenges that young people faced during election, of course, we mentioned, and I'll still insist, the financial challenges. There were outstanding financial challenges for young people running for office. Even those who won are saying that it is the financial bit was very strenuous to them because you have to spend more if you have to get more votes. Also, there is the notion that young people are inexperienced because they are not mature enough. And I think this is a notion that cuts across Africa, that leadership is in most of the times equated to age group and how long or how old you are. Say that young people are seen as not really mature enough to be leaders. Also, there is issues of security. There are issues of security, especially among young people and of the female gender outstandingly, and also of the male gender, the youth per se. Because what happened is, especially among competitors, while you are running against, let's say, a 4 terms MP, and you want to compete, these people would mobilize goons, would do so. There were a lot of security challenges for young people who had never walked through the political terrain. Also, another opportunity that I had missed, which is an opportunity and as well as a challenge, is that in some spaces or in some situations, the young people were involved in agenda setting for this politics. Young people took center stage to set the agenda for the politics in 2022, but still, in other situations, it was also seen clearly that young people would just align with an already set agenda for political survival, and they would not have even any voice on the part of agenda setting. Last but not least is that if they were to advocate for youth-friendly policies for youth participation in the electoral process, the young people who dared to vie mentioned three areas of their interest. That is, first of all, is exempting young people from nomination fees to vie or registration fees within the Independence Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And the argument is that these are young people. If there is an exemption for, you see, and the male people were, I think, the most disadvantaged in this case, because the concern is that women have been, a woman who is a youth has been exempted in some quarters, but now there is a youth who is male and has not been exempted. So there is still need to twitch on the Elections Act of 2013, so that we work on how now young people can be exempted. This will act so much in ensuring that there is an improved number of young people participating in politics. Also, there is also enforcement of the Campaign Financing Act. The Campaign Financing Act caps expenditure in campaigns, and it is an act of parliament that has been assented into law, but there is still too much to do in terms of enforcing it fully. And I think the recommendation that I got is that there is still a lot of need to ensure that this act is fully enforced, because if we can cap the expenditure in campaigns, it will still help even the young people. Because if a young people has, let's say, 500,000 shillings to run the whole campaign, and then they are competing with someone who's willing to spend up to 10 million. So you see that does not bring any fairness even in the field. Also, there was a recommendation for nominations, that is party nominations into parliament, to focus on young people. Whether it is in the Parliament of Kenya, there are nominations for special interest groups, that is the youth, women, and people living with disabilities. And the recommendation that I got is that there is need to ensure that whether there are people living in disabilities or they are women, they have to be women who are 35 years and below. If it is people living in disabilities, it should be PWDs who are 35 years and below, so that this will increase the number of young people, because at the moment, out of around 349 349 members in parliament, you'll find that there is only around 60 members who are young people. And you see, out of 60 out of 349, and parliament works through lobbying. So you see, even lobbying for youth-friendly legislations becomes an uphill task. Up to that point, Ivan, that was the deliberations of our group. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kogei. And indeed, I did place you last because I knew that we were also going to get a lot from the people who are first-hand forerunners when it came to political involvement. And indeed, it has paid off with deliberations that you have shared. And it's very clear that almost all you shared was consistent with what other groups have come up with, which means that indeed the youth voice and the youth mind is in one place. At this point, we are time spent, and I just want to say that a very big thank you to colleagues that have joined this deliberation from the start nearly 3 hours ago up to this point that we are at now. I want in a special way to thank all of you that paid keen attention, showed up today, and participated actively in the breakout sessions. Like I said earlier, we commit that we shall be sharing the youth agenda to each and every one of you that registered through the link so that you can have your input. And I also want to take this opportunity to sincerely appreciate our consortium members in the Republic of Kenya, starting with, and this is in no particular order, but Emerging Leaders Foundation, Run for Office Kenya, Africa Youth Trust, National Youth Council of Kenya, Nairobi's Center for Multi-Party Democracy in Kenya, and the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. Thank you so much. We also take the opportunity to appreciate all members of Parliament, the youth members of Parliament that have been able to join us today. We do not take it for granted that you spared time to join us. And of course, I want to thank the team at YouLead Africa that has supported technically to put this together and to ensure that it goes off seamlessly. That said, I will just open plenary for a split second. If there is anyone with the last inquiry, now is the time. Otherwise, allow me share with you the Kenya Amani song as we exit. You can live at will, and here is the song.
Kopango Africa. Youth, we are no longer tools. So let's have peace in every step that we take.
I have just realized that I did not thank the ESA Youth Ambassadors who have also been core in putting this together. Your Excellencies, I meant no disrespect. Thank you so much for contributing towards this conversation.
To maintain our sanity, adapting to love in this reality. With hope you can see, we struggle to be heroes rising. We believe a moja we can achieve. Rise to kiwave, come our flags of freedom to rise to kiwave, come our flags of freedom unrelenting.
Vijana pose the key. Opponents what I feel kwe chwin chalopi. Let's unite, tomorrow we'll reign. Pour on me, please quench my thirst. Bring in peace, oh that's my wish. Kenya, yeah, money, yes, see together. Beautiful people, yeah, Mama Africa. See the sun rising, we go get her. For the better, so look, we achievers. Hakuna kulala, I'm not ready for game, I'm not ready for blame. For the choice I make, yeah, for the choice I make, yeah.
Rise to keep wave, come our flags of freedom to now rise to keep wave, come our flags of freedom unrelenting. Flags of freedom to now rise to keep wave, come our flags of freedom.
Peace to the world.